There are seasons in life when nothing seems to make sense. You pray, yet the answer appears delayed. You work hard, yet the breakthrough remains out of sight. You knock on doors, yet they stay closed. During these moments, it is easy to believe that you have been forgotten, overlooked, or left behind. It is easy to compare your journey to others and wonder why they seem to be advancing while you remain in the same place. But what if the very season that feels like a delay is actually one of the greatest signs that God is preparing something extraordinary for your future? Many people assume that promotion comes immediately after desire. They believe that if God places a dream in their heart, the fulfillment should arrive quickly. Yet throughout life, there is a pattern that cannot be ignored. Preparation always comes before promotion. Growth happens before greatness. Development takes place before destiny unfolds. The strongest trees spend years growing roots before they ever reach impressive heights. Buildings that are meant to stand for generations require deep foundations before the first floor is constructed. The greater the purpose, the deeper the preparation. This truth applies to every area of life. A person cannot suddenly step into a position of influence without first developing the character required to handle it. Success without preparation often becomes a burden instead of a blessing. Opportunities that arrive before maturity can create problems rather than progress. God understands this better than anyone because He sees not only where you are today, but also where you are going tomorrow. When you look at your current circumstances, you may see obstacles. God sees training. When you see waiting, God sees strengthening. When you see limitations, God sees development. The process may feel uncomfortable because growth rarely feels pleasant while it is happening. Every challenge stretches you beyond what is familiar. Every disappointment teaches lessons that comfort never could. Every obstacle develops qualities that cannot be learned in easy seasons. Think about the moments that have shaped you the most. They were probably not the moments when everything worked perfectly. More often, they were the moments when life tested your patience, your faith, your determination, and your resilience. Those difficult seasons revealed strengths you did not know you possessed. They taught you how to keep moving when circumstances encouraged you to quit. They taught you how to trust even when answers were not visible. They taught you how to endure when the destination seemed far away. What often appears to be God's silence is actually God's workshop. While you are focused on the visible parts of your life, God is working on the invisible parts. He is refining your thinking. He is strengthening your faith. He is building discipline, wisdom, patience, and understanding. These qualities may not attract attention from the world, but they are essential for the future He is preparing. Many people ask for greater opportunities, but few ask for greater preparation. They desire the reward, but resist the process that creates readiness. They want influence without growth, success without discipline, and achievement without development. Yet lasting success is built upon a foundation of preparation. Without that foundation, even the greatest opportunities can quickly collapse. The waiting season often feels unfair because you cannot always see what is being accomplished. Days pass. Weeks pass, months pass, sometimes even years pass. Nothing appears to be changing on the surface, yet beneath the surface, important work is taking place. Just as a seed develops unseen before it breaks through the soil, your preparation is occurring in places that others cannot observe. There are lessons that can only be learned through waiting. Patience cannot be developed without delay. Trust cannot be developed without uncertainty. Perseverance cannot be developed without resistance. Strength cannot be developed without challenges. These qualities become part of who you are, shaping your character in ways that prepare you for future responsibilities. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that God measures progress the same way the world does. The world measures progress through visible achievements, titles, possessions, and recognition. God often measures progress through transformation. He looks at the person you are becoming. He looks at your ability to handle success with humility, responsibility, and wisdom. He focuses on your readiness rather than your speed. Sometimes the very thing you are asking for is also the very thing God is preparing you to handle. The blessing requires a stronger version of you. The opportunity requires greater wisdom. The promotion requires greater maturity. The influence requires deeper character. Because God loves you, He refuses to release certain things before the preparation is complete. What feels like a delay is often protection. What feels like waiting is often development. What feels like standing still is often the season where the most important growth is taking place. Every challenge you face is adding something valuable to your life. Every obstacle is teaching a lesson. Every disappointment is revealing a strength. Every setback is developing resilience. Even when progress seems invisible, preparation is still occurring. Even when answers seem delayed, growth is still happening. Even when the future appears uncertain, God is still working behind the scenes, arranging circumstances, building character, and preparing you for opportunities greater than anything you can currently see. There are moments in life when disappointment feels impossible to understand. You pray for an opportunity and it disappears. You invest your time, energy, and hope into something you deeply desire, only to watch it slip away. You trust people who eventually leave. You pursue goals that never seem to materialize. In those painful moments, the natural reaction is to ask, why? Why did that relationship end? Why was that door closed? Why did that opportunity vanish when it seemed so perfect? Why did life take a direction completely different from the one you planned? What many people fail to realize is that not every closed door is a rejection. Not every setback is a failure. Not every delay is a sign that something has gone wrong. Sometimes what appears to be a disappointment is actually divine protection operating behind the scenes. Sometimes God removes things from your path because He can see dangers, limitations, and consequences that you cannot see from your current perspective. Human beings naturally judge situations based on immediate emotions. If something feels good, we assume it must be right. If something causes pain, we assume it must be wrong. Yet life repeatedly proves that immediate feelings are not always accurate indicators of long-term outcomes. There are opportunities that look perfect at first, but later become sources of stress and regret. There are relationships that seem ideal in the beginning, but eventually reveal themselves to be harmful. There are paths that appear promising, but ultimately lead away from the future you were meant to experience. God sees the entire road, while you only see the next few steps. He sees what a decision will produce years from now. He sees consequences before they become visible. He sees people's true intentions before they reveal them. He sees obstacles before they emerge. Because of this, His guidance often protects you from situations that appear attractive on the surface, but carry hidden difficulties underneath. Think about how many things in your life once seemed devastating but later made sense. At the time, you may have cried over a lost opportunity. You may have felt crushed by rejection. You may have believed that life was moving in the wrong direction. Yet months or years later, you discovered that the very thing you wanted would not have served your future. The job you failed to get may have prevented you from entering an unhealthy environment. The relationship that ended may have protected you from years of pain. The opportunity that disappeared may have made room for something far better. The challenge is that protection rarely feels like protection while it is happening. It often feels like loss. It feels like disappointment. It feels like confusion. Protection does not arrive with an explanation attached. It arrives disguised as circumstances you do not understand. It arrives through doors closing when you desperately want them open. It arrives through delays when you want immediate answers. It arrives through changes that seem unfair in the moment. This is why faith becomes so important. Faith is not simply believing when everything is going well. Faith is trusting that there is purpose even when you cannot see it. It is believing that God's perspective is greater than your own understanding. It is accepting that there may be reasons behind events that will not become clear until much later. Many people spend years mourning opportunities that were never meant for them. They continue looking backward, wishing they could reclaim something that God intentionally removed. They replay old memories. They revisit old disappointments. They imagine how different life might have been if certain events had unfolded according to their plans. In doing so, they miss the possibilities waiting in front of them. The past can become a prison when you refuse to release it. You cannot fully embrace what is ahead while remaining emotionally attached to what is behind. Every season requires a willingness to let go of what no longer belongs in your life. Sometimes God removes people because they cannot accompany you into your next chapter. Sometimes He removes opportunities because they are too small for your future. Sometimes He closes doors because there are better ones waiting further ahead. There is wisdom in understanding that God's plans are not limited by your current circumstances. A closed door does not mean the end of your story. A rejection does not define your worth. A setback does not determine your future. What feels like an ending may simply be a redirection. Life often moves in unexpected ways because the greatest opportunities frequently arrive through paths we never anticipated. Imagine if every desire were granted immediately. Imagine if every door remained open. Imagine if every request received an instant yes. At first, that might sound appealing, but it would also remove the protection that comes from divine wisdom. Some things must be withheld because they would ultimately limit your growth. Some paths must be blocked because they lead away from your purpose. Some opportunities must disappear because they are not aligned with the future being prepared for you. This understanding changes the way you view disappointment. Instead of seeing every obstacle as evidence that something is wrong, you begin to consider the possibility that something greater is happening. Instead of assuming rejection means failure, you begin to recognize that redirection may be taking place. Instead of viewing delays as punishment, you start seeing them as preparation and protection working together. The experiences that once caused confusion often become the very experiences that produce gratitude. The moments that seemed unfair eventually reveal hidden blessings. The losses that once felt devastating often become the turning points that lead to greater opportunities, deeper wisdom, stronger character, and a future that exceeds the limitations of your original plans. One of the most remarkable truths about life is that everything can change in a single moment. People often assume that major transformations happen slowly and predictably, but history, experience, and countless personal stories reveal a different reality. Sometimes years of struggle are followed by a sudden breakthrough. Sometimes a season of waiting ends with an opportunity that changes everything. Sometimes the answer to a long-standing prayer arrives when it is least expected. This is why you should never judge your future based solely on your present circumstances. Many people become discouraged because they focus too heavily on what they can currently see. They look at their bank account, their career, their relationships, or their challenges, and assume that tomorrow will look exactly like today. They begin to believe that because nothing has changed recently, nothing will change at all. This mindset is dangerous because it ignores one of the most powerful realities of life. Circumstances can shift far more quickly than most people imagine. A person can spend years searching for the right opportunity and find it in a single day. Someone can work quietly behind the scenes for a long time and suddenly receive recognition that opens entirely new doors. A conversation that lasts only a few minutes can create relationships that impact the course of an entire lifetime. One decision can redirect a future. One unexpected encounter can introduce possibilities that were previously unimaginable. Life is filled with examples of sudden changes. A seed remains hidden beneath the ground for a long period before breaking through the surface. During that unseen season, it appears as though nothing is happening. Yet beneath the soil, growth is taking place. Roots are developing, strength is forming, preparation is occurring. Then one day, visible evidence appears. To an outside observer, the growth may seem sudden, but the reality is that the process had been unfolding all along. The same principle applies to your life. What appears to be a season of inactivity may actually be a season of unseen preparation. While you are focused on what has not happened yet, important developments may already be taking place behind the scenes. Opportunities may be aligning, circumstances may be shifting, connections may be forming, lessons may be preparing you for responsibilities you have not yet encountered. The challenge is that most people become impatient during the invisible stages. They want immediate proof that progress is occurring. They want clear evidence that their efforts are producing results. When they do not see instant movement, they become discouraged. They begin questioning their direction, their purpose, and even their faith. Yet some of the most significant developments occur long before visible results appear. A breakthrough rarely arrives without preparation. The opportunity that changes your life often requires experiences you gained during previous seasons. The success that seems sudden to others is frequently supported by years of unseen effort. People tend to notice the moment of arrival while overlooking the journey that made that moment possible. This understanding creates a powerful sense of expectation. Expectation is not wishful thinking. It is the belief that today's circumstances do not have the authority to determine tomorrow's possibilities. It is the understanding that the future remains unwritten and that opportunities can emerge in ways you never anticipated. Expectation allows you to remain hopeful, even when visible evidence appears limited. There are countless moments when people came close to giving up just before their circumstances changed. They reached a point where they believed nothing good was coming. They assumed the waiting would continue indefinitely. They concluded that their dreams were unrealistic, yet shortly afterward the breakthrough arrived. The opportunity appeared, the answer came. What they thought was the end turned out to be the beginning of something new. One reason sudden transformations feel surprising is because people often underestimate how quickly momentum can build. A small opportunity can lead to a larger one. A simple introduction can create valuable relationships. A single decision can produce effects that multiply over time. Progress often appears slow at first and then accelerates rapidly. What seemed impossible for years can become reality in a relatively short period. This is why maintaining faith during difficult seasons is so important. Faith keeps you moving when visible results are absent. Faith encourages preparation even when opportunities have not yet appeared. Faith helps you remain open to possibilities that others dismiss. Faith reminds you that the current chapter is not the entire story. Many people miss opportunities because they stop expecting them. They become so focused on disappointment that they lose their sense of anticipation. They assume that future experiences will mirror past experiences. They stop preparing, stop believing, and stop looking forward. In doing so, they unintentionally close themselves off to possibilities that may already be approaching. A better approach is to remain ready, continue developing your skills, continue strengthening your character, continue expanding your perspective, continue preparing yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for greater opportunities. When the moment arrives, preparation allows you to recognize it and act upon it with confidence. The future often unfolds in ways that exceed human expectations. Opportunities can emerge from unexpected sources. Solutions can appear where none seemed possible. Circumstances can shift with surprising speed. What once looked permanent can change. What once seemed impossible can become achievable. What once felt distant can suddenly move within reach. The breakthrough you have been waiting for may already be closer than it appears, moving toward you through events, people, and circumstances that are still beyond your current field of vision. Preparing to reveal possibilities that today you can barely imagine. One of the greatest limitations people place upon themselves is the belief that their current circumstances define the boundaries of their future. They look at where they are today and assume that tomorrow will simply be an extension of the present. If resources are limited, they expect limitation. If challenges are numerous, they expect more challenges. If opportunities seem scarce, they convince themselves that scarcity is permanent. Yet this way of thinking quietly restricts possibilities before they ever have a chance to appear. The truth is that your current situation is only a snapshot of a moment in time. It is not a permanent description of who you are or what you are capable of becoming. Life has a way of changing, growing, and expanding in unexpected directions. The person you are today is not the person you will be a year from now if you continue learning, growing, and believing. The opportunities available to you today are not the only opportunities that will ever exist. The limitations you see now are not necessarily the limitations that will remain tomorrow. Many people struggle because they think according to what they see, rather than according to what is possible. They allow visible circumstances to shape their expectations. If they see obstacles, they expect defeat. If they see delays, they expect disappointment. If they see difficulties, they expect failure. As a result, their vision becomes smaller than their potential. They stop dreaming. They stop expecting growth. They stop believing that extraordinary things can happen in their lives. Yet throughout history, every remarkable achievement began as something that seemed impossible. Every great invention was once considered unrealistic. Every major breakthrough was initially viewed with skepticism. Every inspiring success story started with someone who refused to allow present circumstances to dictate future possibilities. These individuals saw beyond what existed and believed in what could exist. This ability to think beyond current conditions is not about ignoring reality. It is about refusing to be imprisoned by it. There is a difference between recognizing challenges and surrendering to them. Challenges are real, but they are not always permanent. Difficult seasons are real, but they do not last forever. Obstacles are real, but they often contain opportunities hidden within them. The way you think about your circumstances can determine whether you remain trapped by them or rise above them. God's plans are often larger than the plans people create for themselves. Human beings naturally think according to their experiences, resources, and understanding. They set goals based on what appears achievable. They dream within the boundaries of what seems realistic. But divine possibilities are not limited by human calculations. What appears impossible from a human perspective may simply be the beginning of what God intends to accomplish. This is why expanding your thinking is so important. If you only expect small outcomes, you may overlook greater opportunities. If you only believe for what seems probable, you may miss what is possible. If your vision remains limited to present circumstances, you may fail to recognize the doors opening around you. Many people unknowingly develop habits of limitation. They constantly speak about what cannot be done. They focus on reasons things will fail rather than reasons they might succeed. They rehearse fears instead of possibilities. They spend more time discussing obstacles than opportunities. Over time, this pattern shapes their expectations and influences their decisions. The mind is powerful because it influences how you interpret the world around you. When you expect limitations, you tend to notice evidence that supports those limitations. When you expect opportunities, you become more aware of possibilities that others overlook. Your perspective affects your confidence, your actions, and your willingness to pursue growth. Expanding your thinking begins by challenging assumptions that no longer serve you. Question the beliefs that tell you something is impossible. Examine the fears that keep you from pursuing greater possibilities. Refuse to accept every limitation as permanent. Some boundaries exist only because they have never been questioned. Some obstacles appear larger than they actually are because they have been magnified by doubt and fear. It is also important to understand that growth often requires discomfort. Bigger opportunities demand bigger thinking. Greater responsibilities require greater vision. New levels of success often require leaving familiar territory behind. This can feel uncomfortable because the unknown naturally creates uncertainty. Yet growth rarely occurs inside the boundaries of complete comfort. People who achieve remarkable things are not necessarily free from fear. They simply refuse to let fear make their decisions. They move forward despite uncertainty. They continue believing despite challenges. They remain focused on possibilities even when circumstances suggest otherwise. Their vision becomes stronger than their doubts. There will always be reasons to think small. There will always be voices that encourage caution, limitation, and fear. There will always be circumstances that appear discouraging, but there is also another choice. You can choose to believe that your future is larger than your present situation. You can choose to believe that opportunities exist beyond what you currently see. You can choose to believe that growth is possible, that change can happen, and that new doors can open. Every major transformation begins with a shift in perspective. Before circumstances change, thinking often changes first. Before opportunities appear, vision expands. Before new doors open, expectations rise. The future has a way of rewarding those who refuse to let present limitations define permanent possibilities. When you begin to see beyond today's challenges, beyond today's disappointments, and beyond today's restrictions, you create space for a larger vision of what your life can become, allowing hope. faith, confidence, and expectation to grow far beyond the boundaries that once seemed impossible to overcome.